This is Fish Lottie here with Fishy Review. Today I've got a follow-up video on the Top Fin Pro Series power filters that I did a review on here a while back. Mine are having some trouble needing to be cleaned, so I thought I'd show you that. I've also got a little problem brewing here. If you see, there is water coming from behind my 55-gallon tanks, which is not so good. Looks like it's coming from the top one. I see it dripping in the back. So here we have this filter. We can see that the indicator is red, showing that it's not so happy. And if I pull this lid off, you can see that indeed it is overflowing pretty badly. You can see that down in there. It's bypassing the sponge media in the filter because the sponge needs to be cleaned. And what's happening a little bit is it seems to be going over that back corner just slightly, which is why I've decided in the long run you should have these filters tipped slightly towards the front instead of towards the back. If this was tipped towards the back, it'd be leaking really bad right now. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a look at this filter and see how to clean it. Okay, so here we have the basket that was in the filter. Here's the filter media. We could rinse this off. Generally, you wouldn't rinse it in the sink. I probably would, but I take chances that way. It's better if you don't go next to chlorinated water with it. So the best thing to do with this would be to dip this in a bucket of fish tank water. So I'll do that in a minute. Put that down there. Inside is the sponge that's gross. This sponge is pretty nasty. Now you could buy a new one of these. They sell these. It's a replacement sponges. Usually a sponge I don't replace. Something like this just doesn't wear out. I would just want to rinse this out. Again, in a bucket of fish tank water is the best place. We'll try that and see how it works. And then this media basket, I don't have the carbon in here, so there's nothing else. The whole thing could stand to be rinsed off a bit. There's certainly some beneficial bacteria growing all over it, so you don't want to clean it too much. But rinsing off the big stuff, stray Java moss and junk that's on there, I don't want Java moss in that tank because it's an Mbuna tank and they just tear it up. So it was in there from before the Mbunas and I've tried to remove it all. There's just little bits left. And of course this filter itself has some junk in the bottom of it and has a rider too. It has this guy. Got this little stink bug on the bottom. If you can see him there in the reflections, they're everywhere here. I wish they'd go away, but they're not going to. And then since it's a stink bug, I can't kill it, it might stink. So I have to escort it outside carefully or something. I think I'm going to just gently pitch him across the room. Goodbye. I'm going to pour out the filter. Okay, so inside the filter, first place we want to look when we're taking care of this filter, doing maintenance on it, is to take a look at the motor area in the impeller. I can see down in the impeller that there's some Java moss and who knows what else. Could be snails in there, I don't know. So we want to take that apart. In this case, on these filters, you can just remove the whole motor assembly from the bottom. But you can also take out this plastic piece on the inside. It just slides out like that. It's, could stand to be rinsed off. I would usually do that. So what I'll do is I'll rinse these things off at my sink, which isn't gonna look good on video, but I'll just rinse this off with the sink in the house. I wish I had a utility sink, but I don't. Here's the motor with the impeller. So you can see we've got Java moss stuck in there. We don't want that. It's not too bad really though. It's in good shape. Pull this whole impeller out though. You wanna do that. Feel it, it's slimy. It's got like this big layer. Look, I'll stir it up so you can really see it. Okay, I don't know if the camera's gonna be nice and focus. I'll put it on my face. I'll take this into the sink and rinse it too. This little cap just fell loose too. This little cap, don't lose it while you're taking the impeller off. I have a nice brush like this that came with some other filters. Really good for any kind of filter cleaning. So if you do have a little brush like this, you can kind of get down in there. But with this one, it's hard because it's got this axle for the motor that really doesn't, I don't think it comes out. I don't want to force it out. So what I'll end up doing is just spraying this out at the sink in the house. And we'll put all that back on. One thing you definitely would want to do is try to rinse off this whole tubing assembly and make sure it's clear. You also should take a sponge like this blue scrubby sponge. This has only ever been used for fish. I rinsed it out real good when I bought it new. Of course, it's made for dishes, so you gotta be careful you don't get one with soap in it or whatever, anything like that. But take this and scrub this off a little bit so this skimmer can slide up and down easily. It's kind of sticking right now. So it's got a lot of algae and junk built up on it. So that's another place too where if you have a brush like this, you can get in there and brush it out. So I'll do that at the sink. We'll see what I can do. I'm not gonna try to get any of this super clean. It's definitely gunky. It has not been cleaned yet. I might have rinsed the sponge once since this has been running. Let's see what happens if we rinse this off in a bucket of fish water. This bucket is where the bottom of the filter got poured, so it's got some junk in it. We're just gonna take and squeeze this sponge out. You can see how much stuff's already coming out of it. The trick is to just squeeze it real good. And this is a bucket of water from that tank. I got my siphon hose and filled a bucket of water. Okay, you can see the water's already even worse than it was. Just kind of squeeze it everywhere and force everything out of those pores on the sponge. Okay, so there's that. That looks pretty good. There you go. See, I don't think that I would need to rinse this out of the sink. Of course, we'll get this Java moss off of it. Set that on the table. And then down in the bucket was also this filter media. So that's really all you should do with this. So if you like my follow-up video here, if you hit that like button, I'd sure appreciate it. It would help you find more videos like this. It would help other people find my videos as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, if you could hit that subscribe button, that would really help out. It would also help you find more of our videos like this in the future. Okay, I quickly rinsed this off at my kitchen sink. I have a sprayer, so I just sprayed it out. Figure that's fine. You know, you don't have to do all that, but I like to get some of the algae that was on here off before it builds up, hard water deposits, that kind of thing. So didn't do a real spiffy job, just got some of the algae out, especially inside the tube, ran my little brush in there. Really just a couple minutes of spraying and work. Nothing, not a big deal at all. First thing we want to do is put this impeller in here. So take this motor housing, drop the impeller on the shaft, and put this black rubber thing back on it. So it's all good to go. And also this part that was inside of it, whatever we call this thing, it's got to slide down in there. You see the rounded corner of it has to meet with the rounded corner of the filter. Just slide that down until it doesn't move anymore. And then we'll put this back on. It's a twist lock, so it goes and twists and then it locks into place and it's pretty secure there. So it's got an O-ring. Want to make sure that's clean too. All that looks good. So we take this part that was on the top as well, and we can slide this back in here like this. Okay, that goes in there. And I'll wait to put the bottom part on so it doesn't get knocked off. And these little things here for the way that, you know, you have the choice of how your water flows out of this thing. I've got these on the slot version of this. So just put them back in place because they got knocked loose as well. And then the basket, put the foam back in the basket, just like that. And I'll put the biomedia back in the top where it was. Kind of want to do it so it's not sticking up, right? So kind of fold it in on itself. It's kind of tricky to do that, but there we go. So that looks pretty good. And then that just pops down into the filter here like that. And then you lower these blue handles, okay? So pretty much the same as the original setup, no big deal there. One thing about this skimmer thing here, see, I've brushed it off, so this is a lot smoother now. You want this to be able to float, because the way this works is it traps air in these top 3 lobes of it, okay? And if you have it underwater and there's no air in it, this thing will just drop in the tank like this. If you have air in it, it will be able to float just at your water level so that it can skim the surface of the water. Good and bad to that. The good is that it gets stuff off the top of your water. The bad is it sucks up all your fish food. So I've been considering turning off the pump on a timer when I do feed the fish so that it'll come back on by itself, because I really don't like how much food that it seems to suck in, which I think is part of the reason this thing was so clogged up. So it's not my favorite feature about the pump. Also, the box shows the skimmer assembly incorrectly. It actually shows it like this, but that's no good because that's not going to stay put. It doesn't have a little notch on it. So it does go like this. There's a little notch on this, so that goes right there. And then this slides down on top of it like that. And then you have to have enough tubes on here to make sure that it can reach the surface of your aquarium. Okay, so there we go. And then you got to put the strainer on the bottom here. I'll also probably put the sponge back on that it came with. It hasn't been on there lately though. I'll set this filter back in place where it was, just like that. Now there's no water in it. We got to make sure we prime it again. So I will scoop some water out of the tank. Looks like it's doing a good job of filtering. Forgot to put the bottom part on. Could have sucked up a fish. One problem right now, the water level in this tank is really low because I sucked some water out for that bucket. Now you can see this skimmer is not working right now because it's below the level of the surface. I'll raise it up, get the water out of it. See if I can get where you can see it. Get it up above the water like that. Now it's got air in those lobes on the top, and now it will just float. See that? That's what floats. I kind of dropped it hard, so I'll do it again one more time, drop it more gently, just to make sure. And now the surface skimmer will be skimming, except for one problem, is that there's not enough water in the tank, so it's now not working because you can see the pipe is above the level of the water slightly. So once I add water back in here, that will be good to go. Okay, now the filter is running. The reason the flow was low before was I had this in the wrong place again. So here's where it was. And you see it gets a lot lower, it kind of breaks up on this side. If I turn this back the way it goes for full flow, that way, now that looks like a real nice strong flow. It's quiet, not making noise, little tiny trickle. And we're not bypassing at all. Don't see any problems with that. So I'll put the lid back on. Okay, the blue mark's in the middle, not the red. The red's over on the side. The red will come up to the middle when it's ready to be cleaned. Now we see in here how the overflow works. There's a lot of bubbles. I'll turn off the bubbles. Got my air lines here. I think it's this one. Turn off the bubbles. Okay, you see the water. You can see it coming down. There's like air up there. You can see how the water is being skimmed from the top by this filter. I could make the fish go crazy here and show you what I mean about the food. Give these guys some cichlid flakes. Got those, you see? Okay. See, it's not too bad right now. Put some over there. I think having the air bubbles actually makes it worse. But it can't. There goes some food right down the overflow, so then that food never gets eaten, goes in the filter, and is not great. But that's why I say maybe you want to take this filter and shut it off. Put it on a timer so you don't forget it. Get a smart plug, something like that. There's all kinds of ways you could do it. All kinds of ways I do it. I'll probably do that in the future on these tanks because I like shutting them off when I'm feeding and then have them come back on in 20 minutes. Mbunas, they want the food. This tank glass needs to be cleaned before I film it. That was the quick view of how to clean this filter after it's been running for quite a while with very little maintenance. So that's the good news, is that it's been working fine without maintenance, except till now where it was really not doing anything anymore. It was all bypassing the sponge and needed to be cleaned. Haven't had any real trouble with this filter or the other one like it, but they are a little noisy, I guess. I've been asked that question. I thought they were fairly quiet, and they're in the middle somewhere. They do make noise if the tank level gets low, a lot faster than some filters do. Not as quiet as a canister filter. I don't think any back filter would be. One thing I don't like about these is how easily the sponge can clog up. There's a tidal filter on the same aquarium that I've never had to clean. It just keeps working. It doesn't start bypassing. So far the filter's been working fine up until today. It hasn't caused any real trouble. It only started leaking the aquarium onto the floor today because I was messing with it, thinking about making a follow-up video to see how to clean it. Once I saw how dirty it was and took the lid off, it started dripping over the back. It might have been doing that before. I did see some water around the aquarium, but it wasn't like going in a stream across my floor like it was today. So that would be a problem in a house. That would not be my favorite thing to have happen. I'm in a garage, so who cares? But on my carpet in my house, I would not be happy if it was leaking over the back. That is unusual for a filter, but maybe it's, you know, I can't blame the filter that much. It's my total lack of maintenance on it. You know, you're supposed to maintain these more often than, you know, quarterly or whatever it's been since I set this one up, or since I last at least rinsed out the sponge. I know I've rinsed it out at least once. And if you're watching this video and you didn't see the original unboxing video on these filters, make sure to click up on the links that are coming up on the side here, and or either that or one of the links for other filter that I've taken a look at.